Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If I could ask members of council to take their seats. I'm just seeing if we have quorum at this point. I think we do. And if anyone would like to speak to any item that's on the agenda, please fill out a form just under the television screen and give it to a representative of the clerk's office, and we'd be happy to hear your disposition and your presentation. Alors, bonjour mesdames et messieurs, bienvenue à la Comité des finances et de développement économique pour le 3 octobre 2017. This is the Finance and Economic Development Committee for October 3rd, 2017. Councillor El Shantiri is at a funeral and is not able to attend. Declarations of interest, déclaration d'intérêt, confirmation of minutes, adoption de procès-verbaux le 5 Septembre 2017, 5th of September 2017, carried. Office of the City Clerk and Solicitor, Bureau du Greffier, Municipal, appointment to the Bank Street Business Improvement Area, nomination au Conseil de gestion de la zone d'amélioration commerciale de la rue Bank, approving the appointment of Justin Lemieux. Carried. Corporate Service Department, Directeur Général des Services, tax exemption for land used and occupied by veterans for memorial home, clubhouse, or athletics grounds. These are the legions and the Polish combatants. This has to be done, I'm told, every 10 years. So it's about to expire, and this provides tax exemption property tax exemption for these legions. Carried. Item number 3, declaration of surplus parts of 3392 Jockville Road and 1209 Saint Laurent Boulevard, and the transfer of parts of 3311 Greenbank Road, 261 Bryn Mawr Road, 3392 Jockville Road, and 1209 Saint Laurent Boulevard to Ottawa Community Lands Development Corporation for future disposal. Hold, is it a quick item, Councillor?
I just have one question about...
So why don't you go ahead?
I just wanted to ask about 1209 Saint Laurent Boulevard, and who's answering the questions?
Peter.
Mr. Radke will provide you responses.
Okay, sorry. Just looking at 1209 Saint Laurent Boulevard and its proximity to public transit and our whole sort of transit-oriented development philosophy, I just wonder if this has been considered for transit-oriented development.
Mr. Mayor, that is correct. That is part of the principle of transferring it to the Ottawa Community Lands Development Corporation to try and encourage some transit-oriented development on the property.
Okay, thank you.
So on the report, carried, adopté, merci. The next item is item number 4, purchasing bylaw règlement sur les achats. Carried. Hold, is it a quick question, Councillor?
Just one question I had on that. I just noticed a line in the report that asks to now include solicitations greater than $500,000. And that seems to be a change. So are you asking for greater delegated authority?
Mr. Mayor, no, this isn't a request for additional delegated authority. It's just changing who administers that authority.
Okay. But in the report, it does say include solicitations greater than $500,000. So you already have that?
That's right. So right now that authority was with the deputy city manager, and under these recommendations it would be aligned with the general manager.
Since we don't have deputy city manager.
Thank you.
Okay. On the purchasing bylaw règlement sur les achats, carried, adopté, merci. Planning, infrastructure and economic development update Q2, développement économique mise à jour deuxième trimestre 2017, received. Item number 6, Bell's Corners Community Improvement Plan application 300 Moody Drive. Carried. This is, I want to thank the staff. This is something that I made a commitment on in the last election, that we would help Bell's Corners, which is going through a transition, and this is going to be a very exciting project. And I believe if there's no one that wishes to hold this, we have one person that's willing to support it and does not feel the need to speak unless there's questions. No? So congratulations to staff. Thank you, Mr. Kirkpatrick. This is carried. Next item is Bell's Corners Community Improvement Plan, a second one, at 2015 Robertson Road. This is, as you know, our community improvement plan that has had great success in Councillor Monette's ward and now in the Bell's Corners area. Adopté. Thank you. Item number 8, Brownfield's grant. We have a staff presentation, so we'll come back to that. Service innovation, we have a presentation on that. And councillors, Service Ottawa Performance will have a presentation by Nancy Greenfield. Councillors item, Richmond's 200th anniversary celebration 2018, Councillor Moffat. Carrie, this is a big, is it a quick one? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So I noticed that this would come from Mr. Chenier's budget under Culture, Recreation and Facilities budget. And Mr. Chenier has stated that finance will put one-time funding in his budget that they can use to pay for this celebration. But I know our principle at budget time is to find offsetting costs. So I'm wondering where you're finding the $29,000 and what's offsetting it.
You have an account, your one-time and unforeseen account. So this is a one-time.
So we're not offsetting it with anything.
So we're not offsetting it. We're using that account as per the directions we've got from council.
Okay. Seems, a little counter to the principle that we use at budget, that if you want to put something in, you have to find something to offset it. But, okay.
No, this is being taken from the unforeseen account and transferred to the source. So that is.
We'll remind you of that at budget time. Thanks.
Well, I think this is going to be a great celebration, Councillor Moffat. Richmond Village, one of our beautiful rural villages, is older than Canada itself. So on this motion, carried. And then everything else is for information. So we'll go back to the first item that we have that we're holding. So the next item, and we have some people who wish to speak to this item. So we'll have a staff presentation. Leanne is here and her team. And this is the Brownfields Grant Program Application 900 Albert Street. Demande dans le cadre du programme de subvention pour la remise en valeur des friches industrielles 900 rue Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today we have Mr. Buchanan, who's been leading our Brownfields application, Mr. Diaco, who's our lead planner on the 900 Albert file, and Mr. Sushin, who's been working from the corporate real estate office and assisting us in this program. We're going to have a short presentation, and then we'll be available for questions. And Mr. Buchanan, over to you.
Thank you, Leanne. Before you is a Brownfield grant application for 900 Albert Street by TIP Albert GP Inc. As you can see on the site location, 900 Albert Street fronts obviously Albert Street, adjacent to a city center. It's right next to the O-Train alignment and across from the Bayview station. The site is presently contaminated and qualifies under the Brownfield program for grant. It's approximately 65,000 cubic meters of contaminated material that needs to be disposed of. In the report, the recommendations of the Finance and Economic Development Committee are for a Brownfield redevelopment grant of $8,255,397, which is an upset limit. Part of that grant is made up of a development charge credit that makes up $7,711,750, and that's again upset limit. Included in the report is a waiver of city land use for $920,000. The existing site, as of today, has a number of encumbrances on site that deal with existing municipal infrastructure. This is major infrastructure that services large areas of the City of Ottawa. There's the West Nepean sanitary collector, which traverses the site from west to east, almost through the middle of the site. as well as a Mooney's Bay storm collector, which runs from the south to the north, and then there's a small section of Mooney's Bay sanitary sewer that collects to the West Nepean sanitary collector. So not only is this site contaminated, but it's well challenged in terms of the ability to develop. There is a proposal set forward in terms of a site plan application that speaks to relocating the sewers to allow the development the property to maximize its development in terms of potential. So the resulting is that the West Nepean sanitary collector is relocated portion onto city lands, traverses a small sector through the bottom end, and then cuts through the lower part of the properties to the south. And the reason why most of this stuff is at the bottom end is because there's an existing water line in there, so it's fairly limited in terms of development. There's also the Mooney's Bay collector, which comes back in right through here, and then goes across and then up through the property, but through the eastern portion of the property to allow that development to maximize its potential, and comes back into the collector system up here. So the economic benefits to the community, it's estimated that there's over $400 million in direct construction value, approximately 264 person-years of direct employment, and 462 person-years of indirect employment during construction period. It's estimated over $415 million in new commercial and residential assessment will be generated. Approximately $23 million in present value dollars in development charges, building permits, and other developments will be realized, and that's taking into account the $7 million for the DC credit. On top of that, the municipal tax increases after full development is estimated at $5,086,700.
This development truly is Council's poster child of fulfilling Ottawa's official plan and TOD goals. This development really is a significant step forward in realizing Council's investment in LRT with the increases in ridership. Further benefits include public realm and animation along Albert Street and a remediation of a contaminated site. This truly is an extraordinary situation to the degree of which we have these pipes encumbering this site. By moving them, we are removing the risks and we are freeing up this site for a better design. This is truly an opportunity. The developer is paying for the realignment of $10 million. The city is not compromised by having these pipes moved for any future development. And staff are recommending the waiver of the fee as identified in recommendation 4 as a result of being able to meet with Council's official plan goals and transit-oriented development. This truly is an amazing opportunity for city building. That concludes our presentation, Mr. Mayor, so we are available for questions.
Great. So we're going to ask members of the public who have registered to speak first. So I guess we'll have the delegation seat over there. And our first delegate is Richard Haider, Director of Community Relations, Building and Construction Trades Council. So Mr. Haider is no stranger to City Hall. Welcome, Richard. And if you could take the seat and push the button, you have 5 minutes. So maybe we can turn the lights back up.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, councillors, city manager, ladies and gentlemen of the gallery. I am here to speak in support of agenda item number 8, and my name is Richard Haider, and I proudly serve as Director, Community Relations for the Building and Construction Trades Council. This morning I'm representing the 35,000 Ottawa residents who directly earn their living hourly in one of Ottawa's largest employment sectors, the construction and infrastructure industry, and the many more who make their living because of the construction and infrastructure industry. Our highly productive and professional workforce are active in building, maintaining, and renovating residential, commercial, industrial, and public infrastructure projects. They receive top-notch training, including continual upgrades to master new materials and technologies. The labor agreements they negotiate set the bar for wages, benefits, and workplace safety throughout the pivotal economic sector. Our council supports and provides leadership for its affiliated private sector unions and their members as they strive to ensure that owners and constructors have the skilled post-secondary trained tradespeople they need to complete large and complex projects on time and on budget. This continuous building process depends on a smooth and reliable regulatory and approvals process to generate new construction hours to train and maintain the human resources needed to meet future needs, in this case, as many as 800 hours of work that come from 800 direct jobs and 3,300 indirect jobs. We forecast in excess of $38 billion of work in the Eastern Ontario and Western Quebec areas over the next 20 years if construction and infrastructure investments continue at the same pace. New projects are our primary recruiting opportunities, and we seek partnerships and relationships with companies of integrity, honesty, and leadership, such as the Trinity Group. With a total of 164 stories, Trinity is demonstrating the economies of geographic skill for the City of Ottawa and the industry by building 1,400 residences vertically rather than horizontally. Their projects define the communities and neighborhoods in which they invest. As Canada's largest private sector trainers, we recruit new apprentices into a career and guide them to the highest industry completion rates for apprenticeships, with many trades graduating over 90% of their apprentices to journeyperson status. This makes it possible for our members to lead fulfilling lives as engaged, responsible members of their respective communities. Every city, town, and village in this country has its share of our 550,000 skilled construction workers who purchase homes, pay taxes, buy from local businesses, supporting the multiplier effect of salary dollars in circulation that we often quote as further economic benefits realized by layers of the Ottawa business community from new construction projects. These apprentices and journeypersons go on to support local clubs and charities because of companies like the Trinity Group, who have built in excess of 25 million square feet of retail space alone across Canada, not including millions more in development properties which generate huge tax revenues for the communities in which they invest. As a community, we need to say thank you periodically. Thank them for their investments and their contributions to our shared quality of life, and support them in their efforts here today so they can continue contributing to our local construction industry when they could theoretically be operating anywhere else in Canada. To summarize, 8% of Canadians are employed in construction, and every construction job produces about 7 supplementary jobs in other industries, ranging from manufacturing and distribution to hospitality and financial services. If we applied that percentage to our Ottawa demographics, then we are closer to 72,000 people benefiting from the trinities of our industry. A vibrant and disciplined construction industry not only ensures the health of our economy, but supports and supplies good jobs and widespread prosperity for many Canadians. According to Statistics Canada, 10.94 jobs are created for every $1 million invested in non-residential construction. Using the following as factors, 6.22 of these jobs are direct, meaning work stemming directly from constructing the building, i.e. for the skilled trades. 8.99 of these jobs are direct and indirect, meaning work stemming directly from constructing the building and from increased activity for related industries, i.e. material suppliers, fabricators, etc. So 10.94 of these jobs are direct, indirect, and induced, meaning work stemming from the first two sources, plus additional work generated throughout the economy. We encourage the approval of the Brownfield.
Richard, hi. If you can just wrap up. Just wrap up.
I was. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. We encourage the approval of the Brownfields application, and any further assistance FEDCO and the City of Ottawa can provide the Trinity Group in moving this project forward.
Right. Thank you. Questions? Councillor Blais, did you have a question for the delegation or the staff? Councillor Chernyshenko, please.
Thank you. I guess I'm just curious, Richard, you don't come out to every meeting this enthusiastic. While I get that there are jobs and economic development, which is super, I'm just wondering what it is about this project in particular that has you so enthusiastic. Is it that finally this site will would be cleaned and ready for development, or is there anything specific about this project that is different from any other?
Thank you, Councillor. I would answer by saying that there is an opportunity for peripheral work that will take place in that community and start defining that community, but also because we had expected by now to be into the Lebreton Flats project. We had started ramping up, thinking that approvals would have taken place, that the NCC would be in a position to start putting the shovel in the ground. And it now looks like that's not going to happen until 2019 and 2020. So our goal is to bring people into employment, not unemployment. And we really do want to see this project move forward.
Councillor McKenney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's the questions I have are for staff.
Okay, so do you have any for Mr. Haider?
No, it's for staff. I'm sorry.
So we're just doing delegations
Okay.
now. Anything else for Mr. Haider? No, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Our next delegation is Ryan Moore from Trinity. Mr. Moore is followed by Miranda Gray from Orleans.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and FEDGO. My name is Ryan Moore from Trinity Developments, and I just want to briefly discuss the proposal before you. It's a fairly typical brownfield application that we're dealing with here today. The historic contamination of the site by railway uses and then subsequently as a snow dump left us with a bit of a legacy on the site. So we proposed to clean that up, and as part of that cleanup, we've just applied for a brownfield grant. What's a little bit different about the report today is recommendation number 4, which deals with an easement on city lands, and that easement is sort of a technicality in my mind, in that as we spend $10.7 million to relocate city pipes, they have to be relocated to city land, and taking a city pipe and putting it on city land creates technically an encumbrance, and the policy of the city and council has been to charge for encumbrances. But in the wisdom of staff, we've seen this idea to provide an easement that sort of deals with that technicality while recognizing that we are relocating a municipal pipe onto municipal property so that we can enable redevelopment of this great site at 900 Albert, which we propose as a tremendous transit-oriented development opportunity, which supports Bayview Station, which is the only station in the city where the Trillium Line and Confederation Line occurs. So I'm happy to take any questions at this point.
Thank you. Councillor Eglai to...
Yeah, just a quick question. If we were to approve the report as it is, including item number 4, what's your timeline on the pipe work, and how long is it expected to take?
We ordered the contract on Friday, and our guys are going to get it on site either the week of the 9th or the following week.
And how long would the work take?
Approximately 8 months.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Dean.
But you still need a site plan approval, right?
Which we have.
You have site plan approval already.
It's just awaiting one piece of information from the contractor, and then it goes for registration. We've already provided the financial security of $7 million and engineering and inspection fees of $320,000, as well as some legal fees.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor McKenney.
Okay, is this still just to the delegation?
Yes.
Staff is later? Okay. Hi, how are you? There's no secret. My comments are in the report that I would have rather we waited until we saw the site plan for the built form before we decided whether what was happening with the public realm really would be a community benefit, especially on that south side. I think you and I have had this conversation several times, and continue to try and hammer out what that would look like, especially along the Wellington alignment. In the last meeting we had a few days ago, you had suggested that you would come back with a letter to me outlining what the concerns were and how you would meet those. I just wonder if you've done that.
We're still working on how we address that situation. We're a little bit off from coming back to you with a revised site plan. So unfortunately, like I said, I don't have much to show you in terms of revisions or responses to any of the comments at this point. But we certainly intend to continue the discussions on all these topics.
Yeah, no, I get the site plan, but in our conversation, it was actually directly coming back to me with some assurances that we would at least see active street frontage on that south side along the Wellington alignment. That was how we left the conversation. So I just wonder when we might see that ahead of...
Like I said, I don't have any guarantees at this point how it's going to look, and it's difficult to provide a commitment at this point.
Okay. So we could actually see a dead space along that south side.
That's
don't
certainly
know
not
that
our
today.
intent. We've taken your comments to heart, and we're working on them.
Okay. But the south side, the last the community saw was a ramp and mostly loading bays.
Point of
so
order.
Is that still...
Point of order, please. This is not about the site plan. It's not about the zoning that has to come forward. This is just about the brownfield. Right. And Mr. Willis is the one that has the most information on the pipes and why this is important or needed.
But we are going to give land away for $1 million, and I'd just like to know if, in fact, the applicant is looking at the public realm and the benefits to the community. I think that's pretty fair.
Mr. Willis can speak to whether or not this is rare or strange or different in any way.
Yeah, on the pipes, Mr. Willis can answer that. That's correct. Okay.
I'm not worried about the pipes. I don't think I'll ever see the pipes. I'm concerned about the actual, just the built form, this and how it will affect the community and how it will benefit the community. I think that it would be prudent upon us to at least wait before waiving close to $1 million, but I'll leave that up to you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Haider, please.
Yeah, just on that, I mean, if the brownfield doesn't go forward, the build will be very limited. So saying that you need to see the build when, with the current situation, that's why I wanted Mr. Willis to speak to. You saw the pictures that show all the mishmash of the way the pipes go.
You can ask that question when we get to staff. So anything else for our delegate, Mr. Moore? Okay, thank you. So I'd mentioned Miranda Gray. She's here for item number 9. So we now have questions of staff. I have Councillor Blais.
Thanks very much. And this is less about the easement, more about what Ms. Sneddon was referring to in her summary about how important and great a development project this is. And I tend to agree. Committee might recall that in last year's budget, OC Transpo pitched the idea of increasing revenues through innovative partnership programs for bus passes. The media focused on Blues Fest and the Ottawa Senators, but an important part of that was working with PGM on high-density developments such as this along the transportation corridors, particularly the train. And so I'm wondering if there have been any discussions with the applicant about offering some form of universal bus pass to the tenants as part of their lease or rent, or I think it's a rental service, I guess as part of their lease as a requirement, and then working with OC Transpo to get whatever rate that would afford them.
Mr. Mayor, those are really great suggestions and opportunities, Councillor, and certainly through our process we will look at that and communicate with our colleagues in OC Transpo, and we'll work with the applicant on that.
Councillor McKenney, please.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly on the past history of this parcel of land, when the NCC first sold it, could staff just explain, there was a subsidy at that point also because of the encumbrance, I understand. Do you have that history?
Mr. Mayor, in terms of history, we don't have anything documented, but I think at one point in time, way back when, I think there was recognition that this site was encumbered by the pipes and certainly was contaminated. However, that site was then sold a second time to Trinity, and in between that sale, City Council approved a report to increase the densities on the site. So at this point in time, I wouldn't consider that there would be any subsidies that would have been party to this current owner.
No, I understand that, but there was at one time a sale of this land at a reduced price because of the encumbrances. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, we don't have any details on this information, so I can't confirm that, and certainly I couldn't speak for the NCC and what their arrangement was. I think there's just some conversation around the fact that that could have been the case, but we don't have any information as to verify that.
Anything else, Councillor? Councillor Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess more a question of clarification. When the delegate from Trinity was here, he indicated he had a site plan. Councillor McKenney seems to be indicating there is no site plan. Oh, okay. So that's okay. So that helps. Okay, I get it now. I saw Councillor Deans was sort of shaking her head at the same time, so appreciate the clarification. Now. This is more a question of process than anything else. A number of the speakers have referred to this as a TOD, transit-oriented development piece, though today we're more dealing with the pipe issue and the brownfields. I guess, Ms. Snedden, I'm going to ask you the question. Seeing as this is a TOD, will we have the opportunity when it comes to planning with and this goes back to the site plan question, when there's a site plan for the development itself, to have a fulsome discussion at that time about affordable housing related to this particular development? Is that something that's on your radar?
Mr. Mayor, yes. The next sort of steps, this is just to clarify in terms of the site plans, there's 2 site plan phases. So the site plan that we're dealing with right now that's approved is really just for the pipe realignment. And then we'll be coming forward with an official plan amendment zoning and site plan, likely later next year. Mr. Diaco can confirm that, but we're still working on that process. And through that process, yes, we could be looking at affordable housing. And again, these things are negotiated items as we move forward with the development program.
So approving the report today, including recommendation number 4, isn't closing any doors to those discussions.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. It does not close any doors.
And staff is prepared to undertake those discussions.
Yes, that is correct.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Great. Other comments or questions? Councillor Haider, please.
Just wanted to ask again if Mr. Willis can actually explain about the pipes, because I think it's important to have that since the conversation is.
Okay, Mr. Willis, please.
So, Mr. Mayor, this is a very unusual site that, as committee is well aware, it's the only place where the Confederation and the Trillium line actually meet in the design of the transit system in the city. So it's unique from that perspective. Secondly, it is really quite unique that we have several pieces of major trunk infrastructure that actually bisect a site. Looking through with infrastructure services this week, we only found 3 sites in the entire city where shallow infrastructure bisects a site, and this is the only one that's actually a TOD site where this actually happens. The other 2 sites are at the Royal Ottawa Hospital and the Pinecrest Mall, because generally speaking, we build municipal trunk infrastructure in our own rights of way. That's the way we would construct it. And recently, when we had the opportunity to reconstruct a piece of the trunk infrastructure on Carling Avenue near the Queensway, we relocated it from off the right-of-way into the right-of-way because that's actually long-term good planning and best infrastructure management practices. So as it was indicated, this is not an easement fee that we're being waived. It's a fee we would charge for an encumbrance of municipal right-of-way. It's different. And Mr. Suchin can help me explain the difference legally. It's not the same thing. So by actually only charging $1 to accommodate municipal trunk infrastructure in the municipal right-of-way, it actually makes sense. It's different than if this was private infrastructure going on to the municipal right-of-way with private benefit. That would have a completely different context. But this is public. This is our own trunk sewer that we would normally, if we were reconstructing, put it in our own right-of-way. So that's why this situation is very unique, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Councillor Deans, I just want to say that the clearest I've heard it. Thank you very much. I think because there was some concern about, is this a subsidy to this business? In fact, it's public infrastructure, public land. So I appreciate that clarity. Councillor Dean?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's helpful. I guess what I'm wondering is just the timing, just to Councillor McKenney's point, if there is any reason we need to do that now. Because I think what I'm hearing is Councillor McKenney sees this as a bit of leverage in trying to guarantee. I mean, I heard Mr. Moore say that they're going to listen to the word councillor and they're working with her about the public realm on the one side. But is this leverage to ensure that we get the best sort of public realm on that side?
So, Mr. Mayor, I think the most leverage council will have is the approval of the rezoning when it ultimately comes. This is important from a timing perspective because you cannot do the remediation without addressing the pipe at the same time. So there is a valid public interest linkage between these two issues being addressed at this point in time, because they can't remediate around the pipe. It creates issues. They actually have to move the pipe out of the way to properly remediate it. So we feel those are best balanced. But staff are very committed to addressing the issues that Councillor McKenney has raised related to the site design. We're very interested in the same issues, and we believe the rezoning and the site plan approval are appropriate mechanisms to apply leverage.
Thank you.
Councillor Chernyshchenko.
So it's fairly clear now, but I just want to make it crystal clear that we're not giving away any leverage around the design of the building or around the site plan by voting for this Brownfield's remediation application today. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, from staff's opinion, we are promoting the redevelopment of a brownfield site by clearing the contamination and relocating public infrastructure to the public right-of-way. We think that's in the public interest regardless of the built form that ultimately gets built on this site. And when the design comes forward through planning committee, there is ample opportunity to address the planning issues.
So there's nothing in the wording of this and the dollar figure negotiated or agreed to that is contingent on a design like we saw here.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's fair to say that Trinity is proceeding with remediation at risk because they don't yet have planning approvals for building on the site.
Thank you.
Councillor Haider, please.
I do want to just point out one thing, though, that in the report, the rationale for waiving the fee was not the rationale that we were just given. Nowhere in the report does it say that. Actually, it says consideration should be given to the benefits that will result from, and I don't disagree with this. I'm just saying that we don't know what will happen. Complete remediation, redevelopment, creation of a complete mixed use, development that is better integrated with the surrounding area and provide for a stronger built form and public realm presence. So from the rationale in the report, it would seem prudent to at least wait to see if that is the case. What we just heard from the head of planning, Mr. Willis, is not this, is something different that wasn't in the report.
Mr. Willis.
Mr. Mayor, those are actually fair criticisms of the councillor. It wasn't until this issue became an issue of additional discussion that we were able to do the deep dive with infrastructure services to determine how unique this situation was. And I take responsibility for the fact that this additional rationale wasn't ready in time for the report. We found a lot of this information as we started actually trying to probe the questions the council was raising. So, in the future, we will do a better job of understanding it. But as I said, this is a very unique situation. I don't actually expect this situation to come up.
Councillor Haider, please.
I just wanted to close by saying for 2 years and more, we've been working very hard to bring this item forward. It's an incredibly important economic development driver for our city. Some $200 million will be the benefit to this city through the transit options, through the transit-oriented development, certainly. And just think for 1 minute, if before us today we had brownfields, which we see these at FEDCO, brownfields, it has been the argument or the question, does it make sense for 2 years now? Does it make sense with the mishmash that you see before you in the pipes there, to limit the build and therefore the economic development, the number of riders, the potential size of the build by just having Trinity, in this case, go in and clean up the brownfield, which would mean they would go under the pipes, lift the pipes up gently, and put them right back where they are now. It would be ludicrous for this city to do that. Absolutely. We would limit our future, and I would say this is going to benefit us with the Lebreton site as well. If we're serious about economic development, if we're serious about opportunity, if we're serious about people investing, then this is a very smart thing to do, because it's not just the brownfield. Yes, they'll clean up the contamination, but they're going to move things around that are going to be for the benefit not just of us today, but for, hopefully, if the equipment's good, the next century. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on the item? Councillor? Well, just a couple of observations. I'm supporting the staff recommendation. I thank staff for the work that they put into this. 900 Albert, along with Lebreton Flats, would be candidates for the foot-dragging Hall of Fame if we had one of those, because these properties have been underdeveloped for decades. You know, how many decades, Lebreton Flats? This is another project that is, been on again and off again, and quite frankly, one of the things I'm most proud of with our council is that we're actually getting things done. You look at Lansdowne Park, that was a political hot potato for 20 years. You look at LRT, east, west, north, south, and I had a fellow stop me at the Metcalfe Fair on the weekend, and he said, you know what? And his words were, I like the fact that you guys are getting things done. And I agree. I think, this is a project that is going to create tremendous economic opportunity, bring life to that barren land, which, thank goodness for Artisan Bakery, because that's helped the city centre and bring some life to that. But you see all of that empty space and so close to the Bayview Station. When I was taking the 87 last week, I noticed, the Bayview Station is coming along really nicely, and it is going to be that important junction between east-west and north-south. And what perfect location for more transit riders, potential transit riders. And we estimate an additional 1.15 million transit trips each year by 2025 as a result of this TOD development. As I said, it's at the convergence of north-south, east-west, and it's going to create jobs, economic growth, and tax revenue for the City of Ottawa. So I think it's a very reasonable request, and as the General Manager clearly indicated, this is public infrastructure being moved on to public land, and I think it's a wise investment on our part to help kickstart this job creator and economic force that's going to be a very exciting part of the city. And you couple that with the Lebreton Flats development, and that is going to really, I think, ignite people's desire to live and shop and work in that particular part of the downtown core. So I thank our staff for the work. I know this has been a big file for a lot of staff for a long period of time, but I think it's a great investment, and it's a great vote of confidence in our city and its future. So on the report, carried. Thank you. The next item is Service Innovation and Performance. We have a staff presentation by Nancy Greenfield. And following that, we have Ms. Gray from Orleans who would like to speak to this item. If anyone has come in since then that wants to speak to this item, you can fill out the form at the desk. Councillor Hubley to staff? Okay. Good morning, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Watson and committee members. I'm very pleased to be here today to provide you with an update on Service Ottawa. Customer service is the #1 priority for Service Ottawa. We're often the first point of contact for residents with the City of Ottawa, and therefore we focus on customer experience and service in everything we do, from responding to emails, answering phones at 311, and in-person inquiries at our 7 client service centres. Our focus is to make sure that residents in your wards have access to the services and information when they need it using one of our 4 channels. We're committed to delivering service that is courteous, reliable, efficient, and responsive to the needs of residents. In 2016, we saw both a reduction in call volumes and emails of between 9 and 10%. We saw a significant increase in the uptake on our online service request of 19%, and we're seeing that it should be as high as 23% in 2017 based on the trend. This, coupled with staff engagement activities, has resulted in 311 being able to achieve service level of having callers wait no longer than 2 minutes, 78% of the time, with an average wait time of just slightly over 1 minute and 30 seconds. This has resulted in high levels of satisfaction with the experience that residents are having both at 311 and at our counters. We're also seeing a use of the digital channel, and it continues to grow with over 10 million sessions in 2016, with almost 30% of that happening on a mobile device. What that's doing is, as people are moving to the website and their mobile devices, it's allowing 311 agents to spend more time with callers on more complex issues, and we're seeing that with our handle time being slightly up. So what's new next for Service Ottawa? Again, we're very focused on ensuring the best experience for our residents when they contact the city. As a result, we're looking at several opportunities in 2017 and beyond. We're looking to pilot this year a courtesy callback so that callers do not have to wait on the line. And we're looking to shorten and be more succinct on our auto attendant or our IVR so that people can get the message faster, and if they get what they want, they can hang up, or we can get them to an agent faster to have their issues resolved. We're adding more online service requests. We're looking at improving some of our most visited pages on ottawa.ca, and we're looking at the addition of a 311 app. Given the trends in satisfaction, the reduction in call volumes, and our improved initiatives that I just spoke about, we're recommending that, or the Service Innovation and Performance Development Department is recommending that a committee endorse or recommend that council endorse our historical service level at 311 of having callers wait no longer than 2 minutes to have their calls answered 80% of the time. And we're recommending, given how important it is that we deliver the best service we can, we believe that committee should recommend council set a target for emails to be answered within no longer than 2 business days, 80% of the time. And we believe both of those can be achieved within our current resources. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So we have one member of the public who would like to speak, Miranda Gray. If Ms. Gray could come forward to where it says public delegations, and you have 5 minutes.
Yes, I do. It's on somewhere. I saw you loaded. She can press it. There is a slide deck, so we'll just pull it up. My name is Miranda Gray. I'm a resident of Ward 1. My professional background is that I am building a ticketing system for a company, and my previous history was in change management in the area of service performance. So I spent years doing surveys evaluating how help desks were answering questions. And I'd like to tell the tale of 2 tickets. My problem with this report is not what's in it, but what's not in it. So if you could go ahead one slide. There are some missing KPIs as far as I'm concerned, and they're ticket close rates, ticket time, and how many times tickets are escalated. In terms of customer satisfaction, it's about how fast your ticket is resolved, not how quickly you can open it. I have no concerns about how quickly I can open tickets on your website, except for very complicated tickets that I try and open. But I do have tickets that are abandoned. I have tickets where I never get a response other than...
Sorry, can I just ask, are you talking about parking tickets?
No, I am talking about tickets in the 311 system. Service tickets.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about parking tickets.
So the problem is I get tickets that just say closed. That doesn't tell me if action was taken, not taken, whether it was rejected or deferred. So while you've improved the dashboard, you've also given me more ammunition to be unhappy with your work because I can now see tickets from quite some time ago. So if you'll go ahead, I'll show you my oldest open ticket. If you take a look at this ticket, you'll see that as of today, it is 11 months old. This was a ticket about a mobility issue at a bus stop. And you'll see that it has not been closed. I cannot tell if staff have even looked at this ticket. But if you go to the next slide, I'll tell you the backstory of this ticket. The issue here is that at the Rideau Street Center, while there was construction ongoing, the city put down, or probably the contractor, put down gravel, and people with walkers were having difficulty getting across the paved gravel to their buses in time to catch them. And this was a problem as winter was coming. So I waited a couple of weeks, and then I raised it with the councillor. The councillor escalated the ticket to the department, met with the contractor and with staff, and replied back to me by email that the stop met the accessibility standard the city has, which was my question. But this year, a couple of weeks ago, I noticed my ticket is still open. Even though I've had a response from the city, nobody has bothered to close the ticket. So I sent a note to 311 saying, could you please close this ticket? The next thing I noticed is that my original request to pave the stop has suddenly now been done, which makes me wonder if someone finally took a look at my ticket and went, oh, that's an interesting point, or whether that work was always scheduled, and I could have been told a year ago that this work will be done at the proper time. That time is not now. As of this morning at 6 a.m., my ticket is still open. So it's been around 11 months. It's been at least 10 months that I've had an official answer. And coincidentally, the work related to this ticket has been done. So while it is great to measure how fast people open tickets, you also need to track whether tickets are being closed and whether departments are following up. So if we go to the next slide. I understand that you are many teams. But in terms of a resident's point of view, you are one city. So if some parts of your organization are not on board with using the ticketing system, they make the whole city look unresponsive. The department that was responsible for doing this work, if they don't update their tickets, nobody can tell that they've done the work. And the message that comes back to citizens is that people aren't interested. So you need to ask our satisfaction not just when we open the ticket at the end of our call to 311, but on the follow-up, because not every call is resolved in one call. That also doesn't seem to be a stat that you are tracking. How many tickets can you resolve on the initial request, and how many need follow-up action? So if you can go ahead to another slide. So I would also suggest that you need summary mapping. If you take a look at the City of Edmonton, they have a great tool. They've put all their tickets for everyone up. So I can take a look at one of their roads, and see what's going on. That's great because it helps me know whether there's lots of tickets going on or not. So if we go to my next ticket, this is my newest ticket. I opened it last week. You'll notice it says open and it's not closed. This is about a pothole. I can tell you I saw the guy fill the pothole, so I know the work's been done. But I also know that's the third time this year I've reported that pothole because the pothole does not stick. And it doesn't appear that there's any way in the system for me to note that it's the same pothole or for the city to note that it's the same pothole. So if you go ahead. I have one more slide. This is just a story of that one. If you go ahead one more slide, I want to show you something from the City of Edmonton. One more again. This is a sample ticket from Edmonton. You'll notice it has a picture of the location. It says when the ticket was open, when it was closed, that the status is closed, and what action was taken. That's the thing I'm most looking for. It tells me that here, the city has rejected the ticket because the work is planned for later. That's great information for a citizen. You're not ignoring me. The work is in planning, and we'll have them.
If you could wrap up, please. Your time is up.
So what I'm looking for is for you to add some more KPIs to your report. The ones you have are great, but they're all about opening tickets, and I need some information about ticket closure and progress.
Right. Very thorough report. Thank you for your input. Are there questions to the delegation? Councillor Hubley?
Could we get a copy of this?
It has been submitted to your clerk, so sure. It's not available in French.
Okay. Thank you. Great. And thank you very much for your work on this. This is great ideas.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So questions to staff. Councillor Haider, please.
Thank you very much. I've been here a long time, and I've seen many times that we have invested in our Service Ottawa, and I see this as just another step of that. And I think that if we could get to add some of the things that were shown there for Edmonton, I think that would be fabulous. But I have a concern that, and it's about change in the way that as councillors, we are now directed to work our wards, and I am really concerned. Those people that know me a long time, they know that, like, I would always contact you. I would not call Donna unless there was like something absolutely massive. So my staff also has a group of people that they work with out of the Moody Yard or out of the Manatic Yard, depending on what part of Barrhaven. And it's always been their process of, hey, whatever, there's like a massive pothole in the parking lot of the Walter Baker. Somebody just fell into it, whatever. Now what I've been told in the last month or so is that all the calls from my office have to go through 311. I want to know what you have done to accommodate councillors now not being able to work laterally, which has always been successful, but now going, really to me, it's going like up to the top and then you filter it down. Whereas, I don't know about the rest of you, but my staff at the Walter Baker and Barrhaven have that, whether it's the winter, whether it's our snow team, whether it's our parks team, and it has worked extremely well and seamlessly, because sometimes they'll be at some place on their way back to the yard and they'll just like do it, right? So I don't like the 48 hours. I don't like those kinds of deadlines and that, because they're not the timelines that we've been delivering in the past. So you're kind of, I think that maybe you're not aware that we've been directed to do that.
Thank you, Councillor. I can understand your concern with that. That is not my understanding. That is not certainly a direction that I've given to staff. Certainly, if we want to track it in our CRM system, then obviously if it comes in through 311, we can track it, and it's easier for us to follow up on that on your behalf. But there's absolutely nothing that precludes you from going through your existing channels. One of the things that we have instituted at Service Ottawa, just so that you know, is we also have a relationship management person. I just have one person. It's a phone number. If you're stuck, you don't know you want to know what's going on, you can't get it through your traditional channels, you call him, and he'll figure it out for you and get back to you and get you your answer that you're looking for.
You see, I think that the way that it has always worked has been a benefit throughout the city, because it's a great use of time management. It's about team building, including our parts of our team, and also taking a lot of the burden off of you. People are comfortable and they just come back. I'm not going to mention the particular area that I'm concerned about, but I have other concerns with it too. And so obviously I have more investigating to do, because you're not really aware of what I'm asking. So thank you.
Ms. Gray, if you can comment and maybe get that clarified, and whatever response, we need to make sure members of council are aware.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. So one of the challenges that I know I've been talking with my counter departments in the service areas who are doing the response is the volume of service requests that are coming to them through multiple methods and forums, and how they can distribute the work in their back-end departments in the yards and the work yards. So as you can imagine, this 311 system is their main work order system that funnels then out to their work crews. And I know one of the challenges that Public Works and Environmental Services is having, which is the bulk of that, is they have a combination of two things. They have partially in the automated world and partially in the manual world. So some of the instances that you're hearing that Ms. Gray spoke to are some of those issues that are paper, that sometimes get caught in that system. They're anomalies. But I know what they're trying to do is funnel it so that we have one system, so we don't end up with multiple service requests asking to fix the same thing in the back-end systems, and they can manage the work more effectively. What we've done this year as a pilot, because we recognize we don't have that total closed loop, and we're hearing more and more for residents like Ms. Gray, the importance of that closed loop and letting people know the status and letting people know where their service requests are at. That is a complicated kind of technical picture, which our service transformation team has been working with that back department this year. We have a pilot in two areas, bylaw and forestry, where we're streamlining that process. We're adding additional statuses other than just open and close so the resident can see that. And we're taking that whole problem, which is a systemic problem for us in the organization with the multiple systems we have, and we're looking at building a longer-term plan through the digital strategy of what's the investments that we need to make to fully automate that closed loop. Because all of the experience that you're having is because those systems in the back are not integrated for that client experience in the front and what we tell that client experience. And until we get into that fully automated system, we're going to continue to have these individual kind of anomalies where people's individual service requests don't come into their natural system. We do track those. We track how many service requests are completed, what is their completed rate. Those are the department's responsibilities.
Okay. Councillor Haider.
Yeah, thank you. That was really interesting and well thought out. I had a bylaw situation actually that didn't work out very well just over the weekend that I was tracking because I'm sure I can't be the only person that has that kind of a personal touch where people that live on that don't call you, right? They don't call you. However, anytime that we have somebody come to us and they say, I called 311, you know what? You have a number. We don't jump over that, etc. But the fact is that I would be very surprised if from a staff management, time management perspective, that the way we've been doing it all along has worked in the places that we have. We have a lot of the same staff. There always were in Orleans back when Bob was there or Rayner was there. Same thing with my Moody Yard. It's changing now. Some people are retiring, but it's very, very effective, and it's way faster than 48 hours because these are not the big things. My staff is very good at telling 311 and connecting with 311 on the things that we need to. But the things that are more about general customer service that can be taken care of by a buddy driving by it has never wasted time and actually has provided a better level of service. So I'll be watching it. I'm particularly nervous about the winter because that's when you're going to get the most calls. And so that's when the 48 hours are absolutely going to become the 48 hours. And on my watch, that's not good time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Angline, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions. First about, and I know it's a small part of what you do, the email service levels. And again, you talk about how quickly you can get back with an email response. What wasn't clear to me from the report is that the email simply saying, got your email, or is that the email that says the problem's fixed and this is how the problem was fixed?
So thank you, Councillor. It's actually the email that says, this is what we're doing about it. Now, if it's a service request and, the service request may not be completed, but what you will get is an answer that says, your service request number is 12345, and it's been submitted to the appropriate department for resolution. But you will get an automated response right away in your email, just so you know that it got to the city. It's like, okay, they've got it, and then within 48 hours, we'll respond saying, here's what we're doing with it, get you an answer if it's question, or keep you in the loop of, okay, we're working on it if it's something seems to be bigger that we can't resolve right away.
So the email you're talking about is basically, this is your service request number, and it's been sent to the department. It doesn't say the pothole will be filled in 2 days, or the grass will be cut, or...
Sorry, the service standard of the service would be included in the email. This is the service standard. If it's two days for a pothole, we'll say that. Service request number 12345 has been created, and it should be completed in whatever the service standard that the department sets for that particular task.
Okay. So that leads to my next question and builds a little bit on what the delegation had to say. I've had scenarios where somebody tells me they've called 311, and they've been given a service request number, but then it goes off somewhere, goes off into the ether. And when I followed up with 311, I've been told, yes, we got that call on the 5th of September. Yes, we logged it. Yes, we gave it a service number. But then it gets sent to a department, and there doesn't seem to be a way to make sure that the department doesn't lose it somehow, that it doesn't fall off someone's desk, that it doesn't get stuck in somebody who's on vacation's email. So what do we do to fix that? Because you've done your piece, but somewhere in the transition between the call and the service request to whether it's parks or roads or whoever it is, something gets lost. And we don't seem to have a loop back function to make sure that it's been received by that department and it's been actioned by that department.
Mr. Mayor, so that's what we're talking about when we talk about the closed loop. So we want to make sure that those service standards and what's happening in the service department, that connection with the front end, the information that we have at the beginning and the information that we show to a resident, so the resident can see 4 steps of status that they wouldn't have seen before, so they know somebody has it, it's being actioned, or it's closed. Right now they just see open and closed, and that's part of the problem. As well as working with those departments around how do we manage to make sure that we're keeping track and understanding what's happened with those service requests. But on a point of clarification too, I want to make sure that people understand that emails, we only receive 4,000 of those in a total year that has a 2-day turnaround. And those are mostly information requests, constituents that need information. We have about 530,000 service requests that go instantaneously to the back-end department to service when they either call 311 or they go on the website. That's not a 2-day. That's an immediate. They get the service response the immediate they put it in, and the service standard is the service department's response time to fill that based on council-approved service standards. So the email is a very small portion that's email that people write in.
No, and I appreciate that. But my second question was more generic, not just the email request, but any kind of request. And I think you and I have talked about this before. And what I don't really understand is, we're one city, as the delegation pointed out. That's how the public sees us. A lot of teams, but we're one city. Why don't we have a single process, whether you're sending it to OC Transpo, to Parks, to Roads, to IT, whoever it is? Why is there not a standard process that says, got the work order, got the service request, it's been assigned? Like, I don't understand why everybody's not on the same bus, so to speak.
Mr. Mayor, that is exactly the direction that's the next evolution of where we need to go to. And we need to do that, and that's part of the plan when we present the digital strategy, is to say, until we look at the integration and the platform that we use across the city that has the capability to provide notifications, respond back to citizens, communicate in email across all city services, we're just fixing Band-Aid problems. And that will be the work that Mr. Rene Decotre will be bringing back in the fall around what does that look like and what's our plan to fix each one of those. Because you are speaking to the client experience that we experience every day, and until we fix the system integration problems, we're going to continue to be in this.
No, I get that.
And I just want to ask the city manager to offer a comment on
Sure.
that.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as a, when I look back a year ago, it seems so long ago, but the issues that were identified in the workplace and by our residents when I was doing all that consultation work last summer, remember, was the whole red tape and staff frustrated about their ability to get the work done and the systems not integrated and talking to each other. So when we did the reorg, we created the department, the Service Innovation Department that Ms. Gray leads right now, specifically to have the mandate to work with the departments to find a common platform and do the integration work to get us off this cycle, exactly as Councillor Eglai is speaking about. So we've only been into it, 6 to 8 months now since we formed the department formally in October of 2016. Their mandate, and Mark is our new director of service innovation, they are now working to over the next period of time to do exactly what you're asking, because we have as much frustration internally as the residents do too, because some are on manual, some are on handheld, some are on laptops. It's all over the place, and we need to get one common approach to how we deal with all our service requests across the city, and that was the direction and mandate that was given to that newly created department.
So that's good to hear. I wish it was as simplistic as here's a memo from Steve Kanalakis to all city managers. You've got a week and a half to make sure that service requests, and I get it's not that simple, but it sounds like you have wheels in motion, Mr. Kanalakis. So when can we expect a system in place that if I, as a resident, put a request in, I know that it's going to get from 311 to whatever department it is, and that can be confirmed? What sort of a timeline are we looking at?
Mr. Mayor, so we are looking at, specifically for bylaw and forestry, the introduction of the 4 statuses and the total closed loop by the end of this year, 2017. Then we will be looking at bringing the roadmap for the other services early in the new year. But instantaneously right now, given all of this work that we've done on the closed loop, we already have started to have conversations with each of the general managers about the processes we need to put in place outside of an automated system around those service requests that aren't meeting within the time frame, and how do they notify the clients without technology. We'll have that plan by the end of this year in order to be able to communicate that into 2018, what that will take.
Thank you.
Councillor Taylor, please.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for the work that you're doing and have done on this portion of our service. So I have a couple of questions. A few of them came connected to some of my colleagues' questions. I want to understand better from a follow-up and feedback point of view, as Councillor Eagley kind of started down that thread. Are we is there a recall mechanism? So is 311 simply the front gate, or are they the owner of the customer? So if someone puts in a 311 request to, pave a piece of something or other that's ratty, that will go off to Public Works to do. And in the presenter's example, it kind of stayed open for an extended period of time. Is there a mechanism where 311 looks at what's aging that has not come back and been closed? Does 311 then go to Public Works and say, hey, ticket number X, we emailed the client and said normal turnaround time for this was 2 weeks. It's now been 4 weeks, and we don't have anything back from you. So do we have a process whereby, does 311 act as the owner of the client case? Because I've had scenarios where residents call and they say to our office and say, I called in, I put in this report with 311, they gave me this SR number, and then I had to keep calling back 311, and 311 says, yes, well, Public Works is working on it. But 311 then seems to be the one who's catching all of the flack for it's not getting done. So what's the power balance? Are you the customer manager in that case, or are you simply the gate, the receptionist, to say, hey, we gave it to Public Works and, it's up to them now?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Councillor, you're correct. We do own the experience. It's a very good suggestion to say, we should be reaching out when these get older, and I will take that away and see if that's something where we could potentially get that information, out of the system in some sort of, concise way. But certainly we only deal with them at this point on a kind of follow-up basis when someone calls us and says, I opened it up, it's not here. I would say that, 90%, I'm guessing, don't put that anywhere, but like a large portion of them are closed and on time. It's more of the exceptions that are not happening, and certainly I can take that away and see if there's some sort of automated report that we could get out of our CRM that we could provide to departments to say, these are open, do they need to be closed, or do they, because I think there's a bigger issue. It's one thing if it's not closed on, it's a bigger issue if it's actually not done. Right? So we could look at the automation of closed, and can we run a batch file that would do something? I mean, that's a technical thing I'd have to take away to our IT department, but I'll certainly take that away.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be helpful, because I would agree that in the vast majority of cases where you get requests, you're actioning them, the departments are actioning them within or very close to the timelines, and they're getting closed. With respect to Councillor Haider's comment about, people call our offices or we have that direct contact with people, that is the minority. The vast majority of people out there don't think to call their city councillor. They go online, they report something, and that's it, and hopefully it gets done. I think in our case, what happens is it's a very different experience. So someone calls our office and says, I have this problem. I'll email back and say, great, we'll get so-and-so in Public Works. I've asked the general manager, whomever who's copied on this email, the GM or whoever will reply back and say, great, I've asked Mr. X, who's now copied on this, Mr. Resident. They will follow up with you directly. And so there's that, okay, it's been fixed or it's not fixed. There's an ongoing dialogue. There's a contact with a person there. So that relationship, although the work still hasn't been completed, the relationship is ongoing and in process, and the resident has someone who's actually responsible for the work. when we're doing the automated route through the 311 portal itself, that interaction's absent. It's just, someone's reported something, it's gone into the back end, and if it comes back, great, and that's the majority of the time. But when it doesn't, that individual's entire experience and opinion about the city of Ottawa is going to be formed on the basis of that one small interaction. So that would
Councillor,
be
you're up to 5 minutes. Do you want to get back on the list, or did you have a question?
I'll get back on the list.
Okay. Councillor Chernyshenko, please.
Thank you. Mine's really quite specific. My colleagues have got into some or mine's quite general. My colleagues have got into some quite specific aspects. We received a very helpful presentation this morning from a member of the public. I'm aware of one, maybe we were all copied on it. There's a gentleman who's given some very specific itemized, 10 or 15 specific critiques and suggestions. I guess what I want to know is that when we get those from people who clearly have technical expertise in the field, and as far as I can tell, aren't out looking for blatantly looking for work from us. They're allowed to do that too, but that we take that kind of suggestion on board, that we really do give attention to, helpful. These are people who are really trying to be helpful, and I'd like to know that we take it that way, and to ideally interact with them to try and perhaps clarify with them what their ideas are, and really evaluate them and their feasibility. Not that everything that's suggested by a member of the public, as we all know, is necessarily a great idea, but that we give that very serious consideration.
Yes, absolutely, Councillor. And the email that you received from Mr. Darwin, we've been in conversations with him and have been in conversations with him quite frequently. And we use those individuals who have an interest to respond to those, but also to engage them in the fixes. So we're very active with that development community around the feedback that we get and the improvements as we move forward.
Thank you. That's very good to know. I know one of my staff, on seeing Mr. Darwin's email, sort of went, wow, that's sort of exactly our own experience and what we hear for constituents, but he's done a far better job of itemizing it for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hubley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to congratulate staff and thank them for what they do, because with I think it's 28 FTEs, they do handle an awful lot of calls and emails and everything through the year. And but I also have to support what Councillor Haider said, because I had the same situation where we had a lot of good contacts within the different departments that we had to use. And I remember my staff going to a meeting and coming back being told that they now had to go through 311. So I need to follow that up and find out where that came from, and then perhaps pass on to Mr. Kanellakis to look at. But the question I have is, with these improvements, or how to get better to what our standards are, I want to thank staff first for referencing the audit recommendations, and I look forward to doing the follow-up audits on that to see how we're progressing. But one of the things that I notice in this that I've been talking to you before about is the email standards. I never could get my head around the idea that it takes us 5 days to respond to an email. In your own reports, you're telling us that you're now getting down to 4 and 3 days response, but your statistics show that most people don't want to wait past 2 days, and that's certainly been my experience with residents that we direct to use email. They tell us they wait a few days and then they call in because they're not getting a response. So I don't think we've got that mastered. One of the things that we did under Service Ottawa was provide this online solution, which I think addressed the issue in a different way, but a much better way, because the online reporting, staff are able to respond quicker to whatever the problem is, deal with it. We're creating that paper trail that's needed, or maybe it's not on paper, it's online, but that tracking ability is there. I'm just wondering if maybe now's the time to abandon the whole 311@Ottawa email piece, because anyone emailing us would have access to the online forms. I can't think of a scenario where you wouldn't have that access if you have email. So why wouldn't we just shut that down and go to the online reporting, and perhaps add a box on the online form where they can put in things that don't fit in the drop-down selection, or create an online chat piece to it as well, where maybe if it's something simple, if the 311 lines aren't busy, maybe they can start answering things online. Have we considered that at all? Like either one, dropping the email and adding an online?
Mr. Mayor, yes, and several municipalities have made the decision to abandon an email as a channel. As I said, we only receive right now about 4,000 emails a year. They're continually decreasing the kind of more we make improvements to our online. It is true that 30% of the emails that we get, somebody could report online, so we continue to make sure that people are aware of that channel and market and promote that channel. The adding an additional box that's a generic box, we did attempt to do that. What happened is people bypassed everything and just put everything into that generic email box, and we ended back into an email situation. So that would not be our recommended approach. What I think we would recommend as a department is it still is a channel of choice. We can continue to do that within our existing complement, enhance our online services, and we believe that channel over time will diminish naturally for our residents the more we improve the online service.
But if we only have 4,000, first off, if we only have 4,000, I don't know why we don't just make the move right now and do it, because it's taking resources from 311 to answer these, and from city staff to answer these emails, that those resources may be better off put into the online side or the on your phones. So I think we should take another look at that, and maybe it's worthwhile making that jump. The other number you just mentioned in there was 30% of the emails could go to online. I don't understand why it wouldn't be 100%. How do you get that number?
Mr. Mayor, some of those are just information that we just have to provide information back to them. They're not actually a request for a service, or they may be a complaint of a service department, or they could be a report that somebody's looking for. They're more informational than they are a service request that requires an action of a service department. That's the difference. And we're happy to, at the will of council, take any direction with respect to how to proceed with the email channel.
Okay, and finally, I'll give you one specific example. I think on the drop-down, you can choose traffic light as an issue, but you can't choose, and there's no way to input in there that what you're looking for is an advanced turn signal on a light, for example, or more time to a light. You want to make that suggestion or ask that question. Those, to me, are simple things we can fix. I had suggested the little box at the bottom, but I take your point that if there's a box there, people would load it up. So maybe we have to expand the drop-down.
Yes, absolutely. And the work that Mr. René Decotre has done around the city, looking at all those examples, we'll build a work plan of the things that we need to do to enhance that experience and the items that are on the online service request. And there's a number of those that we can move forward on and improve that online channel now that we're seeing people shift and using that channel at the percentage that we're seeing today.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hughley. Conseiller Monette, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank Miranda for coming out today. It shows that proactive approach with how to improve things is definitely a way to go. 311 has improved quite a bit since its inception. One thing that I find is always missing, though, in the 311 is that there does not seem to be any reports back to the ward councillors as to maybe a monthly summarization of what calls or what contacts you have received, what has been able to be resolved, and what has not been able to be resolved. I think that's something that we should try and fit into there. I think every councillor around the table is affected by success or non-success of 311 follow-ups. Because indirectly, I mean, if people are not satisfied and they do not contact the councillor, it reflects on the councillors who are responsible for their ward. So that's something, I don't expect to change overnight, but if there was a way to look at, providing some sort of, monthly tabulation of a summary of what's happened and, again, what's been resolved and what's not been resolved, I think would be very helpful for elected representatives. As far as what Councillor Hubli, Councillor Haider mentioned, yeah, I got the same message from staff, and my response was that, the elected official, everybody has a right, all citizens have the right to contact their elected officials. In fact, I've always encouraged it, whether it be on social media, whether I'm canvassing at the doors, which I do every year, whether I'm just meeting people. If they have any issues, I encourage them to contact 311, but also encourage them to contact me. I think the elected official, that's a responsibility. I know any of my business cards, what I have is can I help? And usually when can I help is not to tell them to call 311. It's, for them to feel free to contact me if they have any issue. So I understand what Councillor Haider was talking about, and I think that's an aspect for elected officials that cannot change. I think it's very important that they always feel free to have access. Always feel free to send an email when things go right with 311. Always feel free to contact me when things go wrong. And you know yourself, I've had interactions where people have complimented 311. I've passed it on. When people have had issues, I've also passed that on. And I have to say that whenever that we've had those interactions, it's been very satisfactory from our office perspective. So just in closing, I guess if you can look at a report down the road, that would be something I think that would be very beneficial to all the councillors.
Thank you, Councillor. Merci. Councillor Taylor, please.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor, and I'll try and make this quick because I know I'm back on the list. Actually, I was going to raise what Councillor Manette was raising. So I know that we get the councillors' consent reports daily, which I appreciate. I know when we brought them in, it was kind of to indicate or to address Councillor Manette's concern about, can we get some kind of intel about what our customers are, or our constituents are asking for. And I was very ambitious in our office when we first started getting them. We would open the spreadsheet every day and we'd look at it and it would say, now I know it's not all constituents, it's only ones that have said, yes, I want to make my ward councillor aware. But we would start calling out to them. But of course we're getting the call as it's logged. So, what was logged yesterday. So in many respects things weren't done yet. So then we started waiting, 2 weeks, and then we would call them and say, hey, we're just calling from your counselor's office to make sure that thing got done. Because oftentimes we'd go into Lagan and it would simply say closed, but we didn't know if it was closed good or closed bad from, their perspective. So I'm wondering, as you kind of continue down the road of this service evolution, if there is a way to make it both more accessible to counselors and more easy for us to be able to quickly and easily go in and see if our resident made a call 2 weeks ago and it's still sitting there open, right? So that we can do some follow-up on our end if need be.
So, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councillor. We do have on open data, and I will admit it's not nice-looking data, we do have all the service requests by ward, and we're just purchasing a tool right now that's going to help put it in a little bit nicer format so people can kind of read it, because, unless you're a developer, it's pretty hard to kind of work with that open data. So that is something that we can take away, see what we can do and what we could provide or post onto the councillor's portal in some sort of format that would be helpful to you.
Right, thank you. So on the report, carried. Notice the motion for consideration at subsequent meeting. Any written inquiries, Madam Deputy Clerk? Other business, Councillor Eglai has a motion due to time sensitivity with respect to the Brownfields development at 890 900 Bank Street. On the rules of procedure be suspended. Carried. Introduction, Councillor Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is actually a staff recommended supported motion, and essentially what's happened is at this location there was a Brownfields grant application that we approved. There's now a different development to be going forward, and essentially the Brownfield grant that was approved needs to be extended or renewed, and that's what this motion does. It doesn't change the dollars in any way. It doesn't change anything. It just there's a time limit on these applications when we grant them, and the time is running out. So it's just to extend the application that we've already granted.
The motion carried.
Thank you.
Adjournment. Carried. And next meeting, the 7th of November 2017. La prochaine réunion, le 7 novembre 2017. Merci. Thank you.